Good morning. All right, so there's a little bit of this going on today. I'm streaming, double streaming. I've got Facebook, my private group here. Hello, this is the Shellist Blues Harp Tips group. And over here, YouTube, how are you? Thanks for joining this little broadcast talking about bending. I think we can accomplish a lot in this live stream. I think it'll be a good discussion. I've got an A and a C harmonica today. Before I dive in and talk about bending and how you can learn more about micromanaging of these bends and how to get more control out of them, a couple things I want to mention. There's a coupon called, I've labeled it Bending 5. That's the coupon code you could use for $5 off anything, any of my classes on bending. You just search at the bottom of the website and you'll see. If you type in bends or bending, it'll pull up all the related classes. Also, Joe Falisco's coming. So before I dive into talking about all this, I want to mention that there's an early bird pricing happening for that. His class is May 17th, and it's going to be awesome. All about Sonny Terry, the secrets and sounds of Sonny Terry. So now let's talk about bending. And I'll put all this information later on in the video description or the comments section. So let's talk about it. Let's YouTube, let me know how the sound is. Make sure that everything's working. Today is a special day. Not only am I using, well, not on Facebook, I'm not using this, but not only am I using OBS to run the stream on YouTube, but I've got a brand new computer. This is the first time live streaming with it. And I bought a little Mac Mini M4, see how that works today. So that's it. Let's get into it. Now that I've given you all the, what's it called? Housekeeping or quick announcements. So how many are you working on bending? What are the challenges you run into? It's such a huge topic. It's possibly the most important skill set that you're going to develop as a player. It's going to be the most important thing outside of learning how to just get natural notes clean and get good tone. The next step before we can really start to make more advanced music come out of our instrument is bending. So I'll start with the C harmonica and talk about this. There's so many things to think about, and the reason I chose this topic is I've been working with a lot of my students on microtonal bending, managing bends on a higher level. And the biggest challenge that people are having is pitch control. Assuming they can start to get the note out, it's this inability to get the exact bend that they're trying to get. And most of these holes we work with on the draw bends have multiple bends going on, especially like holes 2 and 3, right? We've got multiple bends on those holes. And on the other holes that only have a half step, we still have microtonal bends to contend with on holes 1, 4, 5, and 6. So there's so many things that I could say, but I'll start by saying that something you may not consider is how slow and how minimal the movement of the tongue is as it relates to controlling bends. You could think about bends as reshaping the inner part, the mouth, the inside, right, of your mouth, reshaping that airflow. And there's many factors you can consider. The position of the tongue, the shape of the tongue, the throat, whether it's closed or open, and just how much room there is, how open your mouth is versus closed, the relationship of how close the teeth are together. So let's talk about, get into some specifics on what you can do for practice, but let's also talk about what happens when you switch key harmonicas. What's going on when you, and again, if you're joining over here, I'm looking this way because I've got a live stream going this way, and it's easier to look straight ahead than to look over to my right. So on the C harmonica, I think a really good exercise is to pick up an A and a C. Try this with me if you've got those handy. And what you would want to do is, if you can move a bend down, I mean, I could start from square one and say, how do we actually produce the bend? But I'll quickly just say, for me, it's the relationship of the tongue in the mouth, where it is. And when I'm not bending, the key thing is that I'm just relaxed, and I'm saying ah. If I were to vocalize it, that's the shape. Ah, with the tongue flat. That would give me a draw note, no bend. And if I go ah, and if I breathe in and go, and start to suction the tongue upwards, I have a variety of bends I can find by moving the tongue in this fashion, this slow fashion, backwards and forwards. So if you can bend the one on a C, well, yeah. You start to pay attention to what's happening with the jaw structure, the tongue position. Try to take that mental snapshot of where that is, because you'll find that you don't get the same result if you lock in a C half step bend on a one draw and go to your A. The position doesn't give you the same replication of the note, or a half step bend, let's say. So try it. If you are able to do this and you get both half steps, you're overbending on the C. You're actually overbending, and you're likely flatter than the note you want on that half step, like this. It's too much. These are overpowering the bends. So you want to go just to the point of the half. And you notice that it's not enough to get it on the C. This is key. This is really important. So you make the quick adjustment when you do that. What would give me that half step on the A? Even more of a kind of shape. Tongue even a little further back. So the lower the key of the harmonica and the lower the reed or the note that you're targeting, the more of a arch of the tongue and open shape we need. With the tongue, again, suctioning up to with a lot of pressure up top. So when you're going for microtonal bending, let me fast forward to kind of a conversation for intermediate players at this point. And you're like, well, I can hit bends. I'm hitting half step. I can go. But are you working all the legato bends? And are you thinking about how slowly you can move? And this is where the micromanaging part comes in of bending, is like, what makes this instrument so emotional and beautiful is the ability not only to bend, but because a bend can be ugly, right? I mean, you hear some people bend, you're like, I don't want that bend. That's not for me. That's not the kind of bending I'm looking for, or that's not the sound I want. So you have to figure out how to slowly get these kind of sounds in your mouth. Where the tongue is, I would imagine, if I visualize this, the tongue is now doing more of a roll, and it's so slow. Most people are doing, the vast majority of people bending on a harmonica are moving their tongue too fast. Too much sharp movement, and it's not fluid. And what's happening because of that is they're getting that reaction out of the heart. Harsh sounds that they can't control the pitch with. So, one of my favorite things to do, I'll do it on the C, is to take this really deliberate, and this translates to such an emotional quality out of the harmonica, but take this deliberate, slow bending, slowly down and slowly out. I mean, I've talked about this. I'm sure a lot of you have heard somebody else maybe mention these slow, but do you practice them? Is it something that you do on a regular basis where you sit down and maybe bring in a backing track or make it more contextual by jamming with this idea and bringing it into a musical context? When you're not trying to target one particular bend, you're moving through the bends. So as soon as you hit a half step on the 4, you're lifting it or coming back to it even. So I think we need a more intimate relationship, is one way to put it, with our bodies, what the tongue is really doing. And I keep referring to the tongue, and I also mentioned that there's other factors that will influence bending. How close the teeth are together, or how much tension you might have. If that sounds like you're just too tense, and your teeth are probably like locked together. If you can't bend at all, your teeth might be too far apart. I've given this tip to many people and had dozens of people write to me later on going, thank you for sharing this tip on the teeth, because now I'm controlling my bends. And what I mean is that my teeth are fairly close together when I'm bending. Okay, I'm referring to pucker bending to be clear here right now. My teeth are very close together, but not touching. There's no tension, but they're pretty close. If I don't do that, there's more travel time with the tongue. But if the mouth is not too wide open, the movements can be smaller and I think easier to manage. So you can consider the relationship of how close your teeth are together. Another big skill set. Let's jump to a different topic of bending here. Besides separating your bends, like staccato, half-step stuff, on 2 and then 3 on the C harp, those are tricky and that's great. But what about being able to just get to a bend? Let's spend a minute talking about this. If you like this topic, I'll remind you, Bending5 is a coupon code you can use towards buying a bending class. There's the best one I recommend is called Bending Clinic. I'll link it later on in this video. It's extremely thorough. And if you're challenged by bending, it'll be the best money you spend towards it, because you're going to have 1,000 exercises and angles to think about, and you can watch and come back and check the notes. So going right to these bends is crucial, because if you can't get right to the bend to start off, how are you going to play these cool bluesy ideas that come from... But 2 full steps are great conversation. I'm working with somebody right now on this 2 full step as it relates to third position, and this person is able to get the bend but doesn't like the way it's sounding and feels that sometimes it is a little off still. But what I hear is that the bend is actually pretty much in tune, but it's the force, it's the attack and the air that they're not considering. There's just too much of they're so used to the muscle memory of needing to attack this bend and make it cooperate. It's not cooperating with me. And so what happens is you get a harsher tone, and often you'll get the pitch will be just slightly off. Those can sound like... It's too much air. So do the opposite. Take a minute with me and try to get a 2 full step on a C. Sounds like this. Right out of the gates. And if anything, start below with your air. The threshold of playing very quietly to where it's not working. And then increase the airflow until you find the sweet spot. Should sound like that. Almost like a flame slowly coming to life or igniting, or like something that's just... Listen to this again. I first set up the position where I know the muscle memory is for the bend, and bring it in as quietly as I can, increasing the air until the note actually sounds out and creates the bend that I'm trying to go for. Once you got the note to come alive, pay attention to just how little air you're actually using. By the way, I'm looking over here. I know I've said it, but just in case you're joining, I'm doing a live stream over here, so it's easier for me to look this way. That's why. So see if you can do that. Take another hole. Let's take the 1 draw bend. Get your position already. Well, there it is. And if you do this and you're not getting the note, even as you increase the air, then you've got to re-examine the actual, where you are, what's the shape you're creating in the mouth. And if you use the least amount of air to execute these bends, oh man, now you're preserving your air to use so you don't run out of air. You've got more air at your disposal in general, but you're getting the sweetest tone you could possibly get by not overpowering these bends. The half step is a challenging bend, but it's the same thing. You You can hear that with not enough air, it's kind of shaky. It's not really supported. So there's always this sweet spot with the air. So if you haven't been practicing just going to these bends and writing down the ideas that you find, like write out the licks. I have a whole class on that too called Bend Heavy Blues Licks or something like this, where it's all blues licks that start on a bend. You can use the coupon on that one too if you don't want the bending clinic. If you really want to squeeze the coupon, I don't think it has a limit. So you could buy the order separately and use it twice or something like that. But that's the sweet spot, took just increasing the air. So you go through your harp and spend more time on these draw bends. Stop thinking about overblows and blow bending. Master 1 through 6 draw bending, where you get so much more mileage out of these notes and you can do so much with it. Don't worry about all the overblows that people are talking about. Don't get distracted by this stuff. It's not it's not the juice of blues harp. It's really not. I'm taking that word from Kim Wilson. He likes to use that word to describe the emotion or the bluesiness of the instrument, the juice. And it's like, here's a couple other random exercises that I like to engage in. I'm a big fan of this draw, bend, blow thing. It's only good for targeting half-step bends. At first, you want to intentionally target half-step bends. So that means when you get to holes 3 and 4, you're carefully trying not to bend any lower than a half step. The other holes won't go any lower, so you can just bend. Draw, bend, blow. Careful on the 3. So you can get good at the muscle memory of just draw, bend, blow. Ow. And then one other quick thing I like to do a lot is work in these. You could bend that when you get to 3 and 2. You could actually, if you want to hit all the bends, you could go. And just do the long in as low as it'll go, as low as you're able to bend. But I like these draw, bend, draw stuff. So I'm going to just share one other exercise with you. You see what's going on over here on YouTube. Good morning to the members tuning in. Hello to Facebook. Shellis Blues Harp Tips. Thanks for tuning in over here. Yeah, that's hole 3, Robert. 4 notes in 1 hole. And really, there's other microtonal notes around that as well. Dave, thanks for tuning in. If you're new, I encourage you to subscribe. Give the video a like. Help me get some traction on YouTube. I would appreciate it. Thanks for everybody else tuning in. Okay, so Arthur's asking, what is bending and half-step bending? So bending means, for those that are new to this, I start from scratch. Bending simply means that you're flatting the note, lowering the pitch. That's what it means. You can hear the note going lower. And you know, you can do this in most instruments. You can flat notes, right? You can do this. It's not just a harmonica thing. It's a music thing. But then half step means the distance, the interval from the note you start at. So if we start with a draw note on any hole 1 through 6, with the exception of hole 5, you can bend these holes down at minimum a half step or more. So when you bend the 6th draw to its lowest point, you're only moving a half step. That's a musical term. 4 draw, 3 draw, half step bend from 3 draw, 2 draw. So you start tuning your ear to that interval. Da da. And if you can sing it or hum it, it'll really help you target the bends. That's another good tip. So you're just going on the 3, you play the 3 draw. You try to sing the note. Try it. I know it's silly, right? We're singing, but just do it. Duh, just say it. Duh. Hopefully you can get that range right there. And then you try to hear the rest. Da da da. And those are all the ranges of a half step movement on a whole three. Does that clarify for you, Arthur? Hey, Sweden Harmonica. Good to see you again. Thanks for tuning in. So bending's a huge topic, and it can be a little bit, I don't know if laborious is the right word, but it can get very tedious to work on bending and you get bogged down. And so you stop working on it from this technical and standpoint like we're doing here today, but you can't. You can't just contextually, you can't just turn on a backing track and just jam every day and expect to make progress with your bending. It takes a little more focus. It means that you've got to sit down with one hole at a time and understand what your deficits are and take notes. For example, you might learn that you always consistently hit the 1 half step or the 4 half step, but it's only the 3 and the 2 that are challenging. Stop wasting your time on those other holes. You're spinning your wheels. So spend time on the things where you really need the help is the biggest tip. Don't spend your time doing things that are fun. My chair is really creaky. That's for a guy that's noise sensitive. That is like insanely distracting. You guys, if you follow me long enough, you know that I'm kind of crazy when it comes to sound. I had to unplug a refrigerator for 3 months and live out of a cooler because I was renting a place where when it turned on, it was too loud for me. I just couldn't stand it. It drove me nuts. So a chair creaking or the airplanes going by, I'm just going to be distracted. I'll do my best here. So here are some bend-friendly licks. Let's just jam a little. Let's pick up an A harp. Once you've been living on the C and you're like, man, it's starting to feel pretty good. You're going to pick up that A and go, what happened? Don't let that happen. Rotate your harps. As many harp keys as you own is what you should be playing every day. If you own 12 harmonicas, in my opinion, you should pick them up, even if it's for 30 seconds on that F harp. Pick it up every day. The longer you sit around and you don't pick it up, the more frustrated you'll be each time you need to play it. Dave says hole 3 is frustrating. Yeah. Now, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is the major scale. Something different. But I like that you wrote it out. It looks nice. 3 hole is frustrating. Yeah, it really is. So let's take the 3 on the A harp, okay? Think of each, remember I started talking about being able to start right on a bend, and I haven't given you any tips for how to work this, but I'll tell you that it will take a lot of practice, but you start coming up with ideas that start on just the half step bend. Look at what I'm doing here. Let me explain. I'm taking 3 draw half step and 3 draw. And then the next note, the 3rd note, I'm just grabbing a different note. Just moving, right? 4 draw. 4 blow. So again, the first 2 notes never change. 3 half step to 3 draw. Why? Because it's you're starting on the bend, which is good practice. And that 3 draw is almost always, not always, but often, let's say. 3 draw is a great next note choice to then bring it somewhere. All these are 4 draws, the 3rd note. So I'm experimenting with the 4th note. So I've talked about this a lot, and I'll keep talking about it until I'm dead probably, but it's a great way to break the rut. So you find these little ideas. 3 draw, half step, 3 draw, to 4 draw. 3 draw, half step, 3 draw, to 2 draw. And I'm saying do-da-da, do-da, to separate these notes. Do-da, do-da. And then I can go to 1 draw. I'm building language, a vocabulary up when I work this, but I'm also getting the practice of landing right on the bends. And you keep doing this. You go along and say, what am I saying from 2 full step bend? What am I doing today from 2 full? It almost always wants to go to 2 draw. By the way, the 3 half step can bypass the 3 draw. There's plenty of examples of where you can go to right to 4 blow and build out ideas and 2 draw. So those are valid to practice as well. But then you go to 2 full. It almost always wants to go to 2 draw, with the exception of 1 draw being the second note. You might be thinking, how does he know this stuff? Well, I'm paying attention. Plus, I'm teaching a lot, so I'm aware of where I usually go. What is the muscle memory that serves you the best? We're talking second position right now. So 2 draw full can go to 1 draw. So you practice that because it'll give you a lot of options. You'll have so many choices that you can come up with. But 2 draw as the second note. Each idea I'm playing starts on 2 full step bend and 2 draw. If you'll take the time to work from this kind of angle and take notes and write stuff down and get a little bit obsessed with the process of practicing your bends and taking stock of where you're really at, it's going to make a huge difference in your ability to actually be musical and execute these bends. What's my favorite? Articulation. There's so many good ones. Let's define what that means for those going, what is an articulation? Articulations are, you're talking about tongue articulations and how we can articulate a note versus just playing the note with the tongue flat going, or the tongue raised and right to the bend. There's no articulation on any of this, just to give you that contrast first. So legato movements don't utilize articulations, right? But staccato stuff on chords and single notes like da. I think da is one of the most important articulations to work on first, and that will give you separation of your notes. Do da, do da. Do is the beginning note, the bend. Do da, do da, do da. So I'm using that from bend to release to the draw. But I like all sorts of things. Let's see. I like saying dow a lot, and it's one of the only articulations that will result in a legato movement. Dow or ow. And it is an articulation, so it's a cool one to practice. It's a little harsh on the 3 to go, but on the 4, if you start unbent, it's nice. It's a perfect little articulation. The Godfather Waltz in 4th position, says Donnaline. Joe gave you that to work on the 2 and 3 hole bends. Beautiful. Okay. What other articulations? A lot of the cool ones land on the chords where you're going like. I have a million articulations for those, like ducka and chucka and hucka and hoodoo and D. Ducka-dee, ducka-dee. So those are some of my favorite ones. Yeah, so get into your bending from an analytical standpoint, and maybe a good way to end this little stream today is to just say that, like, you've got to pay attention. I said it earlier. This is one of your biggest takeaways, hopefully. You got to pay attention to your deficits. Where do you lack? Where are you most challenged when it comes to bending. First, identify the key harmonicas that are the most challenging, and always play those first and longest. And identify which bends themselves on the harmonica in general are creating the most challenge for you. And be systematic about it. Write this stuff out. And come up with cool blues licks and melodies that you can work on that force you to begin on these bends. If you can start on the bend, you're getting so much great practice out of everything. And of course, scales present nice challenges for working on bends because they'll be scattered in the scale. There might be only one bend or no bends or two or three, depending on the scale. But each time you land on one, it's going to present a new challenge for you. Third position is a great example of people ignoring a position because it's too hard for them to bend on the lower portion and third position accurately on the whole three, where you need a full and a step and a half bend. And so they just ignore it. They just stick in the middle. Yeah, ta, tu, ti, da, all those exactly. Similar to a trumpet. That makes sense. A G harp 3 bend is my challenge. Well, which bend? 3 whole? Or the step and a half bend, maybe you mean? The third bend, the lowest bend? Then yeah, you can... remember, here, let's just do this real quick on a G. If you take a G harp and you start from the top and say, how low can I go? Let's say you can only go that far, and that's not all the way down. It's the full step bend, the whole step. Let's say that's your challenge, and you're trying to get to and hit that step and a half. You don't always have to practice it coming from the draw. Remember what we did earlier, we're practicing trying to get right to the bend. So if you know that this is your lowest bend, and after our discussion here today that to get to that next level, we've got to open up and do a more of an exaggeration with the arch of the tongue and get even a more open shape potentially. Start by trying to locate where you are with the whole step. Where are the teeth? How close are they together? And then open everything up. That extension of the jaw on a G harp, especially for like a one draw bend, is now going to give you this ability to grab notes you couldn't get before because you were restricting your jaw, quite frankly. So these low harps, like a G and a low F, you got to open up. That's ridiculous, but that's what you got to do. Have a much more open shape and a bigger arch of the tongue further back. Don't give up. Don't give up. Back to the A. And you're going to hear me do a lot of things. We won't get into it in this stream, but when you hear me play and you hear me do things like there's a lot of legato bending, but there's also these lifts that go up and back down. And I do this a lot because it creates a lot of emotion from the instrument. So like taking a full step on the 2, lifting it up, not necessarily to the draw, just a little bit of a lift up towards the half step bend, and then back down to the full. I have a tickle on my nose that is driving me nuts. There's nothing in my nose, it's just a tickle. Sorry. So you'll hear me do this a lot. So yeah, live and die and breathe on these bends. And breathe on these bends? Yeah, breathe on them. You got to breathe to get the bend to come out. But live and die by the practice of more of a singular practice is the big message today. don't get too caught up in thinking that you can just keep jamming every day and your bends are going to get better and better, because they probably won't. And that's a fact. They just won't. They're not going to get better because you're not doing anything different. You know what I mean? You've got to work on something different. You've got to come from a different angle and a different perspective now to get something out of it. So that's there you go. And I'm pretty much wrapping up, Mr. Spanky. I know who you are. I know who that is. You can't hide behind that name anymore. I know exactly who you are. And that's not a bad thing. I won't call out your real name, just out of respect, you know. So go bend, and then maybe we'll come back and do a similar discussion here down the road for blow bending. If you like this kind of talk, or you want to go deep into the instructional side of bending, check out the bending clinic. I'll link it in the video later. There's a coupon out today for YouTube, $5 off. Bending 5 is the coupon code. Do I play chromatic? I do. I play it, and it's not right next to me now. You can find a few videos of me jamming on chromatic on YouTube, but I don't play the chromatic nearly as much as the diatonic. I just play, I do like using it, though, primarily for third position, a lot of the old blues stuff that you find in third. Yeah, so thanks for hitting the like button on that note. Speaking of the hit the button, thanks, Robert. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for tuning in to my Facebook friends. I will see you again. Shellis Blues Harp Tips. Y'all make it a great day. All right. I've said goodbye to that, and I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. I really appreciate you hanging out. Thanks so much for being a member on my YouTube channel. If you are a member, or perhaps you decided to be a member at Harmonica 123, where you can access all my classes. Thank you for checking those out. I really appreciate it. I'm always happy to spend some time with you guys, and maybe this new Mac Mini M4 will inspire me to live stream. Maybe not as much as I did in January, where I was live streaming pretty much every single day, but I would say that, if I could live stream every other day on average, that would be a really good thing. There's a large truck outside of my place right now. It's driving me bananas. You guys, I need to move to the middle of the forest and become, what would be the word for somebody who's completely a loner? There's a better word for that. But I need somewhere where I just don't hear any sound. If I ever disappear and you never see me again, that's where I am. I'm hiding out in some sort of secluded area trying to find peace and quiet. All right. Bye, guys. Make it a good one.